LBC 97.3. Call 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC 973. This is London's biggest conversation with Julia Hartley-Brewer.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is LBC 97.3, London's biggest conversation, and a much lighter conversation. I'm sure you'll understand at 3 this afternoon. I'm with you all the way till 4 o'clock when Ian Dale takes you home at Drive. Coming up a little bit later, we're going to be talking about the over 60s who've been rejected for jobs simply because of their age. 4 out of 5 over 60s say that's happened to them, and many in their over 50s as well. We're also going to have a night out at the movies competition coming up a little bit later, so do please stay tuned. First up though, as promised, as billed, I'm joined in the studio by the great British Bake Off's Paul Hollywood. Lovely to meet you.
Hello, how are you doing? Yes, I'm good.
You're twinkling away at me. And by the way, you don't just have to listen to us at LBC 97.3. You can watch live on lbc.co.uk live streaming. I've warned you about this, haven't I?
Yes, you have, yes.
No stripping off or anything.
No, I'll keep my coat on.
Okay, well, just wanted to check that. Now, you are obviously, you've been the big star of the Great British Bake Off, of course. That's how so many people will know you. But you've actually got a Bake Off tour started.
Yeah, well, it's basically a tour which is all about me and baking, really, my life story of baking when I started when I was a kid. And it starts in May next year, actually April next year, on April the 28th. I ended up coming to Croydon, Watford. I'm at the Apollo as well in London next year in May.
Wow, big venues.
I think it's 20 dates in 25 days I'm covering. And actually in between I'm filming Bake Off as well, so it's going to be a little bit busy.
Time.
Yeah.
But this is the interesting thing. I mean, you're sort of making, in a way, baking. I mean, not just cooking, but baking. It's the new rock and roll.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of demonstrations this year with Mary. We've been doing the BBC Good Food Show, and we just finished one in Birmingham, which is the big winter show. And it's a theatre with 3,000 seats. It was packed every demo. And we walked out, and Mary was going, look at them, it's full. And we're sort of still scratching our heads thinking, what is it about baking at the moment? Because I think it's down to, a large part of it is down to we're actually pretty good at baking. And I think it's down to nostalgia as well. You know, our parents or our grandparents made us something, whether it be a cake, a bread, a pie, whatever. And it reminds me of when you're a kid. It might even be school dinners. But I think put it in a tent, give it a load of bakers, and give it Mel and Sue, who are the gel of the programme. And because we just walk in and eat the stuff. But I mean, Mel and Sue
you really
make
do,
us laugh.
actually. Come on.
We do, that's all we do.
How did you get that gig? But it's interesting. You're a baker by trade. You're not a celebrity chef. You're a baker who has found fame. And you started out in your father's bakery in your teens, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to be a Saturday lad, and then I ended up leaving my dad, worked for the Chester Grosvenor, worked for the Duke of Westminster for 6 years. Cyprus, I was at Clifton Hotel, I was at the Dorchester, I was head baker at the Dorchester. I was then worked briefly. I remember I was offered a job at Claridge's. Lanesborough wanted me at one time, Chewton Glen, all in the same week. And then I ended up going back to Chester and then to Cyprus for nearly 6 years. I worked there, came back through Italy, France, and then came back to this country. So professionally, that's what I did before TV started.
And you've got your very own successful bakery business right now as well.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm turning it into a school, actually, because I'm never there. So what I'm going to do is turn that to a baking school. I'm going to open that up next year. I'm just having it all refurbed at the moment. So I'm going to open that up and people can come and work with me for a day and come and learn from me. And that's part of what the tour is. It's almost a precursor for that, but it's a chance for me to answer people's questions about the Bake Off and answer people's questions about baking and cakes and pies and puddings and breads or whatever they want to do. And get very interactive with people. That's the point of the tour, really.
Well, indeed, I mean, for many years now, we've had, celebrity chefs, and we've had, very macho guys, baking, cooking for us. But baking has still always been seen, hasn't it, as perhaps a woman's preserve for so many people. There's been this sort of idea that, the cakes and things, that's more of that's what women do. But you've really machoed it up for us.
I suppose the baking is I suppose a quarter cake, quarter pies, half bread, actually, because in the industry it's predominantly bread and pies, and some of the afternoon tea stuff, like scones and stuff like that.
I'm so hungry right now. Can someone send
But in the industry, when I grew up, it was all men. There was no women professionally in the industry. There was, I think, 1 out of 15, 20 was a woman, and it was actually down to the flour bags being so heavy.
The physical strength you needed.
There was 64 kilo bags. they were looking at some serious weight. So the flour companies reduced the weight of the bags, and eventually it's now 16 kilos. So it's reduced back down to a weight which actually the bakers the males were damaging their backs. I mean, I'm feeling it a bit now from years of lifting up heavy flour bags and dough, obviously, as well.
It's really interesting that the women actually just aren't in the kitchens professionally as a general rule.
It's strange. It's really
I
strange.
have a very good friend who was a chef, and she just said after about sort of a year of doing it, she said, I don't want the light. It's back-breaking work.
Yeah.
It's terribly stressful and macho. And
it's early mornings. I mean, in my trade, it's
mornings.
always early mornings. Getting out of bed at sort of 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and working for a 10-hour shift. And it is. I used to work 6 days a week. I don't know why I did it. I lost my youth to it. It was ridiculous.
Well, that's true. Now, in an interview last week, Michelle Roux Senior denounced the cookbook industry, saying that 1 in 2 are absolute rubbish. They're not worth the paper they're printed on. Is he right?
I don't know. I do baking books, and they're brilliant. I think.
Do they always work, your recipes?
Yeah. Well, we get them tested. Everyone's tested at least 7 times each.
But by people like me who are a bit rubbish.
Yeah, of course,
I'm the sort of person that forgets to put eggs in a cake.
Well, the book I've got out at the moment is Pies and Pudge, which went with the BBC series, which is on the BBC at the moment, and it's coming out again early next year on BBC Two. The Pies and Pudge is all about my youth. So it's all about things that I had when I was a kid or at school, a good pie.
Jam tarts.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, my mum's were the best. And then a pudding as well. So you got bread and butter pudding, or you have a roulade, or you have little custard tarts. And so it's all about puddings and pie. And you put that together, you got a whole meal. And it actually lasts and it can feed a family relatively cheaply. So whatever you don't eat on the first day can be reheated for the next day, especially with a big steak and ale pie.
Oh, it just sounds wonderful. The thing is, we do have a bit of a thing at the moment about the healthy eating obsession, don't we? People, has that been an issue at all on the? No, not at all. On the cakes
have you ever actually watched Bake Off?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on. I mean, the way I look at it, eat whatever you want, just eat slightly less. So the only way to do it is, say you want a big cream cake, for instance. Go and buy the cream cake that you want. Cut the slice and put it on your plate, right? And say, right, I'm going to eat this. Then say to yourself, I'm going to have half that. That means you've had half the calories you were going to have before. So you've halved your calories.
I'm not sure that's going to work.
It'll work.
I like it. Do you, when you do the Great British Bake Off, you must put on weight when you're tasting all that
Actually, this
food.
year I lost weight. It was a really hot summer as well this year. We had a decent summer. And I got darker and darker. If you see the first Bake Off, see the last one, I think I changed about 10 shades darker. And I actually lost about a stone as well.
Because Mel and Sue always say they put weight on.
I think Sue lost a bit this year, actually. Don't know about Mel. Oh, she always puts it on. She's going to kill me. I think I think Sue was work. It's really hard work in Bake Off. You're running around all over the place.
Wait a minute, tasting other people's cooking.
You're running all over the place and sort of trying stuff out, and you're doing, you're down. And don't forget, Mary and I used to stay in the tent when everyone went home, because we did master classes, you see. So we used to stay behind and enjoy it. And they're big 10-hour days,
Well, let's talk a bit more actually about your Bake Off tour. It's actually 23 live dates you're doing starting in April.
Really?
According, I hate to tell you, they've added a couple on. They didn't tell you.
There's a couple of matinees, in Croydon, that's right.
Now, you're going to be demonstrating recipes, and you're going to give 4 lucky audience members the chance to bake with you on stage.
Yeah.
Presumably you've done rehearsals for this. Presumably you've done some... how many times does it go wrong?
I've never done any rehearsals for it yet. You see, part of it is... most of the work actually I've done before has been live. Bake Off's almost recorded. Well, it is recorded live. I do a lot of demonstrations in the past, but this is that and a little bit bigger, so I've got a couple more recipes. But I want it to be very interactive, so those 4 people are going to come on stage. I'll do a sort of generation game style, so I'll give them a chance to show me what they can do, and then I'll fix it, because you can't fix it unless you know what's broken.
Yeah.
I'll give them the chance to show me what they can do. Then they can eat everything I bake. But I'm going to give it to the audience. I want it to be very interactive. I don't want it to just be me standing there preaching from the top about what you do and what don't you do. I want to get those people involved, as many as possible.
And when you've done these live demonstrations in the past, have you ever had anything go horribly, horribly wrong? Have you ever forgotten a crucial ingredient, like the sort of thing I do?
No.
Oh, you're making me feel so bad.
Why do you?
I tend to cook with my 7-year-old over the years, and therefore, and we sort of get waylaid, and I forget what's gone in and what hasn't gone in.
What do you bake?
I'd like to point out right now that Paul is looking at me with such disdain and horror for the fact that I've missed ingredients.
What have you? I mean, do you bake at home?
I do cakes on a regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, with your kids.
I do a good chocolate orange cake.
How many kids have you got? One.
Just the one. Oh,
Okay.
No excuse.
Do you bake with your child?
Yes.
What sort of things do you bake?
I say we do a lovely lemon drizzle cake.
Yeah.
Coffee cake. The old
Right.
cupcakes for school, and then chocolate orange cake.
Jam tarts.
Never made jam tarts.
Bread.
Never made bread.
You've never made bread. I'm
I'm a
disgusted. This is ridiculous. You've never made bread. What about a pie, a sausage roll, a pork pie,
No.
a custard tart,
No.
a roulade?
No.
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing with my time.
So you're just keeping 2 recipes and just spinning them out for that poor child to think that's all bacon's all about. A lemon drizzle cake and a coffee cake. There's more to baking than just those two.
I know there is. I'm just not a very confident cook.
Well, then you need to practice. Listen, I'm going to have to get a book over to you, Anna. If you get the book, then you have to try it.
will you leave me a recipe for jam tarts? I will make jam tarts. I'll
There's
bring them in.
millions of them.
We'll taste test them. I want your recipe for jam. You've got.
I'll send you the book.
Now listen, your 20-part TV show, Pies and Puds,
Yeah.
is currently showing on the BBC.
Yes.
And you say this is about the recipe heritage that you've got from your family. Your father was a baker. You've had this through your life. You reckon that your mum's jam tarts, you say, are the best?
Well, Tom Kerridge was there as well, and Tom agreed with me as well. We actually made it following my mum. I didn't know. Tom brought in a recipe when he came on the show, and it was an envelope from my mum, and he said, pass this to Paul. So he passed it to me live on camera. I looked at him and went, this is my mum's writing. He goes, yeah, no, your mum gave it to me. You have to follow this recipe. So we actually followed my mum's recipe. I was questioning some of the ingredients. I thought it was too much water. But actually I made them, and me and Tom ate them afterwards and said, they're really good. And Tom goes, I'm going to put this on your menu. And so you're talking about a Michelin-starred chef. So yeah,
but she would have practiced that recipe for years.
Oh,
and years.
for 110
But
years.
look, you're talking about your childhood, but what about the childhoods that are going on now? Because lots of the high-profile chefs, like Jamie Oliver in particular, have taken a role. They're trying to influence government food policy.
Yeah.
We've seen Gordon Ramsay go into prisons and things. Could you ever see yourself sort of entering?
The only way I would enter a crusade is to the point where I want to see all children in school compulsory learning how to cook or bake in school as part of the curriculum. I think it's crucial that kids understand what goes into food and they can cook themselves. How many kids do you know leave school and don't know how to do anything?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I've just remembered, I did make bread once when I was at primary school.
How did you get
we
on?
made bread, and then we also had a jam jar full of sort of creamy milk, which we shook up and down for about 10 hours.
With that
and made
yeast
butter.
in it. We've made
made the butter. And isn't that all these years on?
You see, I think that baking should be back in school curriculum. I think while it's cool and in, the kids love doing it, and put it into the school curriculum, and they learn what goes in their food. They enjoy it,
and what good healthy food tastes like.
Exactly, the difference between the stuff that they may go buy in a shop and the stuff that they make at home. It's a difference between a Mini and a Rolls Royce. They both do the same thing, but the quality is very, very different.
I think we're going to see you in the political arena on this.
Well, I'm there. Give us a call, David.
But first up, of course, we've got the arena. Well, it does sound like an arena tour. Your 23-date Bake-Off tour, and it starts in April. Are tickets available now?
They are available on paulhollywood.com or killylive.com, where you can get tickets or Ticketmaster.
Lovely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to meet you. That's Paul Hollywood. He's been live in the studio. If you've been watching it live on our website, lbc.co.uk, you'd have seen the twinkle. You'd also have seen the absolute disdain he showed me. The look on his... I have never been looked at with such horror as when I admitted that I've never made my own bread, as my producer's just written on my screen. Even David Cameron makes his own bread, and he's Prime Minister. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. Absolute pleasure. Good luck with the tour. Coming up later on, we're going to be talking about the over 60s rejected for jobs because of their age. We'll have a competition for a night out at the movies. But the time now is 3:16. Let's get an update on the traffic and the travel in the LBC 97.3 Travel Centre. It's Amy Solomon.
Thanks, Julia. Well, the A4 has major queues out of town. It's all because a bus has broken down at Sutton Court Road in Chiswick. Now, you can still only get past in the outside lane. Recovery has arrived now. I can see that on camera, but it's absolutely solid back from Earl's Court. In fact, right back now onto Kensington High Street. In Palmer's Green, the North Circular is open westbound at the Clockhouse interchange again after the police investigation. Still looking quite slow from the Great Cambridge interchange though, and the traffic lights aren't working on the A40 Western Avenue at Gypsy Corner, so the crossover from Leamington Park to Wales Farm Road completely closed. That's for safety reasons, and it is causing delays in the area. It's also slow along the A21 northbound at Bromley College.